Hello, writers. Welcome to this little video giving you a writing update on what you should be doing. Before break, some people turned in things that they weren't supposed to turn in, and I think there was a little bit of confusion, maybe because some people had missed some videos. So please watch this one carefully. And it might be a good idea to bring mom or dad or one of your grandparents right into the room to watch this with you so that everybody knows what's going on. Okay, so you remember a long time ago now, we did an experiment and wrote a lab report with the car and the ramp. Remember that? Okay, and there were several important steps. The first step was to copy exactly what I wrote in my notebook. It was all in the videos. Copy it into your notebook. That goes into your black and white composition book. And you shouldn't tear those pages out or turn that in. I asked you to just leave them in that notebook. Then, when all of that was finished, you were supposed to put it onto nice paper, which I gave everybody at a couple of different times. The nice paper and the data charts, which I also gave you. This was the report that we did together. So, probably around the second week of December, this is what your writing folder should have looked like. On one side, you have your notebook, which has all of your writing ideas, all of your practice writing, and exactly what I wrote about the car and ramp experiment. And it's all in the old writing videos. You can still go back and watch them. Then on the right side, you should have had this nice paper. Now look here. It's one, two, three, 4 pages. It's possible you needed more, but it's on nice paper and it's all spread out. One person just crammed everything onto one page and turned it in. That is not what we're supposed to be doing. Everything's got to be neat and organized. And here are the data charts down here. See how everything is neat and organized? This is how it should be. And I don't want any of this turned in yet. This is your practice copy. We did it together so that you could have a model to look at. And then what I asked you to do was to come up with your own idea for an experiment. And I believe I had a chance to talk to everybody online or in person about what they were going to do. And in your notebook, you're supposed to ask a question about how the world works. I wonder what would happen if I froze different kinds of liquid, for example. And you're supposed to record a hypothesis. I think what will happen is blah, 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 blah. All of that just like we did it for the car and ramp. And then we were supposed to think about how we would test it and write everything down. Again, this is all in the recent videos. Writing video 23, writing video 24. They're all on my channel and they're all on PowerSchool. And then you were supposed to record your data. Okay, now this is going to be different depending on the experiment that you're doing. Those of you who are doing something that requires freezing, well, you're going to write it down a little bit differently. How long was it in the freezer for? Or how many things did you put in the freezer? Those of you who are dropping things or racing things, okay, or measuring things, you don't have to make a chart, but you've got to write down your information in a way that's easy for me to understand. And then analyze your results and write a conclusion. You have to tell me if your hypothesis was right or wrong. And why do you think it was right or wrong? Okay, now before Christmas break, most of you had already completed your hypothesis. Okay, now and some of you had already gone on to this stage. All of this information has to be written in the composition notebook. This is where you're writing everything down, and you've got to make sure that you've got all of the information. Then, when all of that is finished and you've got all the pieces ready, that's when you start writing everything onto the pretty paper. And you can draw pictures and do all of that stuff. But everybody was given lots of paper. So you have to use the paper that I gave you. And you've got to write cleanly and make sure you space everything out. You cannot do this on one page. You can't do it on 2 pages. And then you put that into your writing folder as well. So here are the steps again. Step 1 was the shared lab report with the car and the ramp. We finished this together. The only thing that you had to do was copy what I had on the screen. And of course, you could have put in your own hypothesis, written it all in your composition notebook, and you are not supposed to turn it in yet. The next step was the shared lab report, the car and the ramp, this time on nice paper, just like I showed you earlier in this video. Keep it in your writing folder. Do not turn it in yet. Okay. Then the third step was your own experiment, your own idea. That's supposed to go into your notebook. Do not turn it in yet. And the last part, which hopefully you worked on over break and you're still working on now, is again your own experiment, now writing it on nice paper, stretched out over many pages. It's not going onto one page. Okay, so it says here on multiple pages. Do not turn it in yet. Now, boys and girls, it's really important that you follow these steps, because one day, probably in a week or two, I'm going to ask you to turn in your writing folder. I'm going to want to see all of this work. And it has to be turned in when I ask for it, because it's going to take me a long time to review everything. Okay, you'll get it back. You'll get your work back. But some of it I'm going to hold on to review. So make sure you followed all these steps. If you're not sure, you can ask me or go back and review the videos that I posted last month. And that's it, boys and girls. The last thing I want you to keep in mind is I'm not going to be talking about this too much anymore. You have the assignment, you have a model to do it, and you've all told me your ideas. I'm going to move on and talk about some other things now in writing, but this is something that I want you to be working on every day. And if you don't do it every day, it's just going to pile up, and it's going to be very difficult to catch up. Okay, boys and girls, that's it for now. Have a great day. The end.